Hello, beautiful alchemist. Happy Monday. Welcome to Reiki Radio. I am your host, Yolanda, and we are going to talk about some interesting topics today. I really want to point out first and foremost how much I appreciate that we get to have all of these conversations here on Reiki Radio about different modalities and different access points of healing and different ways of revealing more of our true nature, our understanding how to access different, what we may categorize as like gifts and talents under the umbrella of spirituality. And today is no different. So we'll get into that in just a moment. But I do want to remind you all as well. Don't forget to download the Energetic Alchemist app. You can go to the Apple App Store or Google Play for Androids and download the app. There is free content there for you. I will be posting some more readings today for those of you who are members on the app. But I also wanted to let you know, this time of year, every September, I start planning for the next year. And maybe it's because it's Virgo season. I don't know, but it's definitely a thing for me. So I already have outlined different online classes that will be available next year. You can go to my website and see what some of those upcoming events will be. But most importantly, the registration for the 2025 Alchemy Circle and Path of Self Mastery are both open now. So if you want to spend an entire year with me through a group mentoring program, be sure to activate your membership in the Alchemy Circle, and your membership includes access to the online classes that will come up next year as well. So I look forward to working with so many of you. It is a beautiful way of staying committed to our practice, but also expanding your understanding of energetic alchemy and how to go deeper into your practices and to drop out of that resistance that so many of us have. So just go to my website, theenergeticalchemist.com, and learn more about all of that. All right. So what we are talking about today, we are going to meet a teacher, an Akashic Records teacher, but she also talks about DNA activations, light language, which I know a lot of you have heard about, also crystalline energy, and what all of this has to do with healing. So her name is Amy Robeson, and Amy is an Akashic Record Master Teacher Healer and the founder of Sacred Awakening, which empowers people through Akashic Records program. Amy also speaks light codes and light language, and she shows you how to walk your divine path. You can learn more about her work at theamyrobeson.com. And she also has a link for us to activate or to access some free activations. And the link for that is down in the show description. So be sure to go into the show description, click on the link, access your free activations. So there is an interesting conversation here for us all. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you on the other side. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reiki Radio. I am your host, Yolanda, and today we are here with Amy Robeson. We have a lot to talk about. So I want to, first of all, thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today.
I'm so excited to chat with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited too because your work is expansive and you cover a lot of topics that I know a lot of listeners are very interested in. So we're going to talk about DNA activations, Akashic records, maybe some light language will be all over the map. But first, I would love to know if you could share with us a little bit of your background. And I know you were a practitioner of Reiki as well. So if you could share with us how you found Reiki and what started you out on this path.
Yeah, so my path started with yoga. So I was getting like intuitive hits to start practicing hot yoga specifically. And I didn't have the word at that time, like hot yoga, or I didn't have
Yeah.
intuitive hits. I didn't have any of that languaging, but I had this strong urge. And finally, I looked it up. I was going through a lot of depression, a lot of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go with my life. I really didn't want to be here anymore, but that was like the thing that kept popping up for me.
Yeah.
And so when I finally Googled it, it was a brand new Bikram studio now called Hot 26 that was just opened up down the road from my house. So I started there, and that led me down a path of like really wanting to learn meditation, because I would stay in the room after everybody would leave for like anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes and meditate, because it felt so, so good.
Yeah.
And then I started dating my now husband. I moved from Wisconsin to Charleston, South Carolina to be with him. I cracked my tailbone for the second time in my life.
Oh, wow.
And the one thing that brought me peace and joy was taken away from me, which was yoga. And I could feel myself spiraling into depression. I could feel myself having a hard time just processing things. I would cry every single day. Like I was going through an identity crisis because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I decided I was going to find someone to give me a reading. Like that was what I just felt like that was the right thing to do. And I found this woman, and she gave me a soul reading. She was a trance medium. She had channeling abilities like Edgar Casey. And at the end of the reading, I was like, hey, I really want to learn how to meditate. I want to learn dream interpretation. Like I keep having these really bad nightmares of someone killing me or someone being killed. And she's like, I teach that. Like I teach that. And it was just so funny that that was the person I was drawn to. The reading was super expensive at the time. Like I couldn't believe I was about to spend that much money, when I was like watching every penny I spent, because I just moved to a new city, was trying to find a different job outside of my previous career.
Yeah.
And it was just, you're watching. And so I started with her, and I learned how to meditate. And then I learned dream interpretation, and I learned all about chakras. And then she's like, I think you should take our teacher meditation course. And I was like, that sounds nice and fun and fluffy, right? Little did I know it was like mediumship and exorcism and hands-on healings and aura readings and all this other stuff. And the hands-on healing part is what scared me. Like, I'm like, hands-on healing, I don't even know. Like, how am I going to do that? Like, I'm new. I don't know a lot of people here. Like, that's really scary for me. And so I just kind of let it sit on the back burner, and just to see like where God would direct me, where
Yeah.
the universe would direct me. And so one day, my friend, this new friend that I met, I was telling her, because I worked every Saturday and I head off every Sunday. And I was telling her, we're going to go water skiing on Sunday. Do you want to go with us? And she goes, no, I'm going to go do something weird. And I was like, oh, I like weird. What's weird? Like, I want to know what you're doing. And she's like, oh, it's really weird. No. And I was like, no, I could feel my whole body gravitating towards whatever she was about to do, I needed to do.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'm going to go get Reiki level 1 certified. I'm like, I have no idea what that is, but I need to go. Can you call your teacher right now and ask if I can come and get certified?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I'll message her, see if she could do it. And she let me do it. And my teacher that certified me in level 1, she was like, normally I don't let anybody come without doing a session first, because I didn't even know what it was. Like I had no clue. I knew in my heart that that's what I was supposed to do next. And here I am, I'm coming to this course where you're learning how to do hands-on healing. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like, it's not as scary as so like that was my first experience with Reiki, was just like hearing someone about it and the very next day going certified.
Yeah.
Didn't research it, didn't do anything. And like, so for me, my path is follow the energy that presents itself to you. And if you're a full body yes, just jump in, don't research it, don't worry about it, and just do it. And And I will research things to figure out stuff, but like if it's in the moment and I know that I'm supposed to do it, I just jump right in.
Yeah, it's funny. We have a lot of parallels. So Bikram yoga was my intro to everything too. At the time I was in a stressful relationship and just looking for like stress relief. And so I
Yeah.
would go every day, like literally every day of the week. I did Bikram for at least a year. And then I stepped away from that and the relationship. And then later, an astrologer who told me about Reiki and meditation. And instead of a session, I jumped right into a class. So, yeah, some similarities
I
there. It's
love it.
interesting how things just happen. And when you trust, you never know what it's going to lead to. But I have to ask you about this too, Amy, because, a lot of people that listen, whatever our entry is, whether it's yoga, meditation, Reiki, all these things, when we practice consistently, we do tend to be exposed or become aware of so many
Mhm.
other practices and systems. And then we find what really resonates with us. So I have to ask you about that, like, because you do focus a lot on, I say, like an overall soul evolution. And you
Mhm.
have a deep resonance with the Akashic Records and again, DNA activation, all these things we're going to talk about. But could you tell us a little bit about how you came into relationship with the Akashic realm,
Mhm.
what it is you feel about accessing, because there's so many different methods to go into the Akashic realm, but then also what made you fall in love with it?
Great question. So let's first talk about what the Akashic Records
Yes.
are. So the Akashic Records are a field of infinite possibility. It's like a Google database of your soul, where your soul has been, where your soul is going. And so every word, deed, thought from the moment your soul is incepted is recorded in the Akash. Akash means space. And we can go into the records and receive love and guidance and support in any and all areas of your life. In the way that I teach them, in the way that I utilize them for the past, the present, and the future. And the reason why I love them so much is because the guardians, also known as the masters, teachers, and loved ones, they give you guidance without any judgment, and they take into consideration your entire soul's lineage. So, where your soul has been, and your entire ancestral lineage for this lifetime as well. And that's really important because when you are trying to manifest something, or when you're trying to overcome something, or when you're trying to heal something, what happens is you can do all of the things that you're, and I'm going to put that in quotation, supposed to be doing, but sometimes you can follow the script to a T that you found online, or someone gave you this advice, but it's still not working. Sometimes it's because you have an ancestral belief or pattern that needs to be cleared, or there's something that happened to you along your soul's path that you're still stuck in time, frozen in time, or you're still processing, and it's preventing you from moving forward because it's a program or a belief in you that's still wired into your system, and it's having you see through that lens versus the lens of love. And when we go into the records, they're looking at all of that, and they're taking into consideration also the purposes that you want to fulfill in this lifetime. And they're giving you advice based on the questions you're asking. And so for me, I love the Akashic Records for all of those reasons. But the main reason is it allows you to have a self-discovery, and it assists you in evolving. So if you're not discovering something new about yourself, it's really hard to change the things that are no longer working for the path that you're wanting to be on. And without that awareness, you're going to just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, which is the definition of chaos, right? And so what the records does is it organizes the chaos for you, and it points out blind spots, or it offers alternative perspectives. And for me, like how I discovered them was on accident. So I started this dream interpretation. I started doing these meditations, and I started channeling like really crazy things. And and I was taught a method of just communicating directly with God and creation.
Yeah.
And so in the circle I was in, people kept talking about the Akashic records, and I was like, that feels so familiar. Like I know what those are. And then when I discovered what they were and I started training in them, it was revealed to me that I've been accessing them since I was a kid.
Mm.
And because I would know things as I was when I was a kid that no one should know.
Right.
And I would have like prolific dreams and things like that. And then I they showed me all these things of like even things that I would tap into as adult before I had the knowledge of what they were. And so oftentimes people on their spiritual path can accidentally end up in the records without knowing it. And you don't want to accidentally keep ending up in the records because it can really distort your energy field, because on an unconscious level you're accessing them, and which you're finding a workaround. So you want a direct point into the records that's safe for your physical body, because we don't want to distort the physical body energy, because that's so crucial and so important, because you don't want to blow out one side, because that's usually how I see it, is like when someone's accessing it, one side gets blown out because they figured out a way to get into it. So having that direct access point, I think I answered almost every question you asked me. If I missed one, let me know.
No. Yeah, no. So I was curious about how you found it, but then also why you love it so much. But the access point, the direct access, if you could talk a little bit more about that, because again, there are so many ways that people teach or learn how to go into the Akashic realm. And was there a variety for you, and then just one way felt more resonant, or how important is that to
I
you?
learned I learned several different ways, and then my guardians taught me a very specific way of doing it,
Yeah.
and that is accessing it through a very simple prayer using crystalline energy as well, because the crystalline energy is really important for our soul's evolution, because we're going from carbon-based beings to crystalline beings. And the more that we work with the crystalline energy, they act as keys and codes into supporting our nervous system, or supporting us in going into places, or attracting or detracting, or repelling, not detracting, repelling something from us. And so with the crystalline energy, it can support us in our spiritual awakening and on our spiritual path. And so I have a very specific method in which I teach my Sacred Awakening students, which is my Akashic Record program, on how to open their records through pair with also bringing in the crystalline energy as well. And it's a really quick, fast method. And there is so many different ways
Yeah.
to open up the Akashic records. The main thing is if you're listening to this, chances are the records are speaking to you, because that's usually what ends up happening. Is the records start speaking to people when they are ready, to students when they are ready to start accessing them. And I have both ends of the spectrum. I have people that I've never heard of them before that are like, I don't know what that is, but I'm all in, I need to learn. And then I have people that I've had taken other Akashic Record courses in the past that they just want to learn more, or they've taken other Akashic Record courses in the past that didn't work for them, and they're still being guided to explore them. And the thing about this is like, you got to find the tool and the method that's perfect for you. And so if you have access to records and you're not getting the results you want, know that there is another way of doing it. And the way that you were taught might just not be in alignment with the way that you're meant to be actually utilizing them as well.
Right. And I love how you describe some of the benefits of going in, especially when we're functioning from energies and stories and coding that we aren't consciously aware of, but it may be holding us back or have us in certain patterns and these kinds of things. That's why I think the records are very interesting too. But you mentioned the crystalline energy. So I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit more about that, because that'll be new for a lot of us. Yeah. So how is crystalline energy? Why is it important? But could you also talk about the link of this energy to our manifestation and how we create?
Yeah, so think about the earth. The earth has been around for a very, very long time,
Mhm.
and it takes millions of years for the crystals to grow within the earth. Now, as they're growing, they're being programmed, they're being infused with knowledge. And within the crystals, there is, you can think about them as like little light beings that want to support us. They don't have legs, they don't have feet, they're a frequency, just like God, creation, creator is a frequency.
Yeah.
The crystalline energy is a frequency, and depending on what crystalline energy you're working with will be determine what types of frequencies that you're working with. So for example, like if you're working with rose quartz is going to connect you with divine love, the connection of oneness to love, and this will support you in one, receiving more love, experiencing more love, and not only that, but being held in divinity of love,
Mhm.
where maybe you have a hard time loving yourself. Working with that particular crystalline energy to soften your heart, get you more into your heart space, will support you in bridging that gap between always thinking about where you're at or being constantly in the mind versus living from the heart,
Yeah.
and being able to love yourself in a different way, or being able to receive love in a different way. Where maybe someone, and I'm sure you've met these people, and I've been one of these people myself, where you're stressed out, you're scattered, you're all over the place, you really need some grounding. And so working with particular grounding crystals can support in that. Or maybe you always feel like something's off, or you're very sensitive to other people's energies or being in different places. Having crystalline energy that can protect you and ground you is very, very helpful. And this is also very important for empaths or very sensitive souls that are very sensitive to other people's energy or other places of energy as well. And so when you have that crystalline energy, you can utilize it. And do you need the actual tangible crystal in order to have that protection or have that grounding? Absolutely not. You can literally just look at a picture online
Mhm.
and have that connection and support. Now, having the tangible crystal gives you something solid to hold, to work with, to form. And so, like all of my Akashic Record students, we send them a crystal kit. Do they need the physical crystals? Absolutely not. But when you're taking something abstract and making it tangible, it allows that connection to go a little deeper.
Do you find that yourself or even some of the students, do certain people tend to have like more of a resonance with particular crystals, not just like a particular stone itself, but I mean like a type? Like, are there some people who are more resonant? And it's just coming to mind. I remember I would always go to the crystal shop intending to choose something else, but I would always go and just see kind of where I was drawn, and not by like choice, so to speak. I would always end up choosing apophyllite. And
Oh,
it
I
like
love
got to the point I
apophyllite.
would have to ask the lady at the store, I'm like, why? Every time I choose it, it's this. But yeah, do you notice that some people are just kind of like drawn to certain types of crystals?
Yeah, so that could be, so there's soulmate crystals too.
Mm,
So, and not every apophyllite is your soulmate crystal.
mm,
It's just a particular one that may be in that store or what have you. But what it could be also the chapter you're in your life as well, because you could gravitate more towards one particular stone for a long time, and then all of a sudden that feels complete and you start gravitating towards another stone. You have to remember that the crystalline energy holds elements as well. And so there's water, there's earth, there's fire, there's
air.
air, and then there's the ether. And so, and then when you have the ether stone, or I like to call them stellar, um, sometimes those might have all the elements, but the earth element might be stronger in one type of crystal versus another one that has a lot more air, but it still carries the other elements in it. And so the thing about it is if you notice that you're gravitating towards it, don't resist it. Like
Mhm.
that's the thing. They are so intelligent. They like literally send out a little signal that says like, hey, I want to work with you. Come work with me. I can
Yeah.
help you and you can help me, because it's also they get to have the experience as well where they're getting put to work. Like we all want it to be we all have a purpose, and this is part of their purpose in assisting the human evolution as well. So it's really like it's so neat to like witness. Similar with plants do the same thing. Animal spirit guides, they do the same thing as well. And so and if we even break down the plants from herbs to flowers, there's all these different support systems that we have that are naturally based from Mother Earth, that came from the stars, because we have stardust in our DNA as well. And we're all here to be in unity together and support each other and evolving.
Yeah. And it's really beautiful when you say it that way. I mean, it makes me think of in different systems, different philosophies, like there was always this teaching of like honoring the essence of all things, that
Yeah.
everything has the essence of spirit within it, right? And I think that is a beautiful reminder of also for a lot of people that we're always supported on our path. It's just a matter of if we recognize it, if we tune into
Mhm.
that, if we become aware of all the different ways that divine intelligence is actually speaking to us, which can be helpful in so many ways, especially not feeling alone on the path. But speaking of connections, ancestors, this comes up a lot. Ancestral healing, just lineage healing, all of these things. And so I wanted to ask you a bit about why this is a point of focus in your work, but then also how can our ancestral work tie into the Akashic Records?
So ancestors, we we hold, if I'm saying the word correctly, in our epigenetics, we hold up to, I think, 12 lineages
Mm,
that scientists can prove within
wow.
our DNA. So think about that. Like when you have an irrational fear that you don't know where it's coming from. You didn't grow up in a household like that,
Mm,
but you still have these shortcomings or these fears that you're like, why? They
yeah.
can be coming from the ancestors. And one of the things that I love about the ancestors are they're coming in droves now. Like this is, I have been teaching the Akashic Records, teaching people how to access their records since 2017. Over the last several years, we have had more students see their ancestors than ever before,
Wow.
because the loved ones come through, but there's not very many, because you have to hit a certain frequency to be able to come through the Akashic Records. And because the veil is getting so much thinner now, the ancestors are being felt in a big, big, big way, because the ancestors on the other side are going, okay, we see what's happened on the path. We see where the path is going. How can I be of support to help clear up some of the baggage that was created from either my generation or from other in the lineages that want to come forward to help? And in February, I was at the Conscious Life Expo
Mm,
in LA, and I was doing an ancestral healing there. And before I like went to go and give my talk, I like tuned into the records, and I'm talking hundreds of thousands of ancestors that I could see were like
wow.
all standing and going, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help. And it's coming in more and more and more for like me to even talk about, because I would talk about it, but I would never talk about it in the way that I'm being guided to talk about it now. And it's so neat to see like how DNA is connected to our ancestral lineage, and how when we end up doing the work that we're meant to do, so if we're clearing out something within us, what we're doing is we're clearing it out 7 generations out as well. And it could be more, it could be less, depending on the person, depending on the beliefs, depending on whatever. And it's not your responsibility to make anybody else in your family change.
Right.
If they have free will, if they want to change, great. But you're doing the work that's going to impact the lineage in the long run. And if you feel like the black sheep, you feel like no one understands you, you're here on purpose. You're here for a reason. You are here to shake up things. You're here to go against the grain of what is normal behavior in a family. And with the ancestral work, going back into the records, the ancestors are showing up because they want to help, and we can see them and feel them and connect with them than we have been able to in the past. And like my grandfather passed away a while ago, and when he transitioned, like he would constantly come and visit me, and like I could smell, like anytime I would enter my office, I could smell when he was there, because it would smell like my grandparents' house. And so like I was always so excited about whenever he would show up. And to me, it's not about if the ancestor's showing up or not. It comes into, do we believe we can help?
Mm.
And can we accept help?
Yeah. That's really interesting. And I think some of what you're saying, it takes a while for people to even trust because,
Mhm.
again, like we have the patterns, but also in our life experience, we have what we believe is evidence to be contrary. Like, the times where we do feel alone or we feel like we don't recognize the presence of people around us, whatever it may be, right? We have a bunch of stories, but it is incredible when we do start to open up to more of what is true, what our potential is, what we have access to. It's mind blowing, really. So,
Mhm.
aside from the ancestral, just the healing side and what it is we may discover about our own patterns, habits, all of these things, you also focus a lot on activation of our DNA. So, could you talk a little bit about why we would activate it and what the benefits of that would be?
Yeah, so we have trillions of cells in our body. I think the last time I looked, it was about 13 trillion cells. The majority of those have DNA strands. We take throughout our lifetime, we can activate unknowingly or knowingly through the spiritual work that we do. We can activate our DNA. We can't activate all of our DNA at once. One, we wouldn't be able to hold the frequency. It would cause major problems to our nervous system and our physical body. But it is our job to activate our DNA, because within activating the DNA, it allows us to understand or access hidden, dormant gifts and abilities that our ancestors once held that want us to know about it, or from our soul, because we also carry that with us as well, because it's all energy and it's all frequency, and it's held within our DNA. And so when we activate it, we can do that. And we can activate it through meditation, through spiritual practices, things like that. Now, the type of activations that I do outside of just the normal stuff that you can do through meditation is DNA activation and restructure. And the reason why someone would want to purposely go and get their DNA activated and restructured is because of the cell removal that we are removing. So I do everything inside of the Akashic Records. And our consciousness fell. And when our consciousness fell, there were some dark forces that place seals upon the earth and upon our DNA. These seals cause like amnesia, like they cause us to forget. They cause us to have certain beliefs as well. They also cause distortion. So they can cause distortion on the a lot on the left side of the body. It causes us to not be able to fully access our intuitive gifts, not to fully access our unconditional love and that experience of unconditional love.
Yeah.
They separate us from wholeness and create this uneasiness that can happen. And then also there's many different seals. I'm just kind of naming a few of them. Another one is the wrath of God. So there's this seal that can make someone feel that they're going to be punished for anything that they do wrong.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, we are not perfect. We are perfectly imperfect, and we are meant to have an imperfect experience in our human experience so that we can be the fullest, authentic, empowered soul that came here to be. And by having the trials and it throughout our life and the experiences and the challenges, because those challenges, those experiences that are not always butterflies and rainbows,
Yep.
those are the things that make us grow. And those are the things that allow us to evolve. And what happens with doing the DNA activation and restructure, I do this in our program called DNA Awakening Accelerator. We do 24 strands at a time. You don't need to do more than that. And it's all different every time. So I have students that will take the course because I offer it twice a year. And every experience is always different. And I do it for myself every time as well, because I never know what's going to happen. Sometimes it's a belief that's really like released and let go of, and my outlook on life completely changes, or I'm embodying a new gift, or there's this new frequency that happens. Like I've had like students, somebody told me like she like got rid of her toenail fungus. Another student told me is like, I got a job promotion I didn't even know I was up for. Like I got like this really cool job promotion. Another person like had this like whole epiphany on where her whole purpose of life is meant to be and what they're meant to be doing. And so you never know what's going to happen. And for me, like this last time we did it, not last, but the previous time, like my light language, and I've been doing light language for a really long time, my understanding of light language completely like changed, and it deeply integrated, and like the accessing of it went on to the next level. And it was not something I was anticipating, but it's just really cool and so neat to like witness and to see.
Well, this is something I'm glad you brought that up, because it's interesting throughout these years how a lot of things tend to start to come into the spotlight, right? So I remember like when I first started Reiki, not that many people, if you said it, they were like, what is that? And now a lot of people are familiar either with that term or just energy
The
healing.
hospitals do it now.
Yeah, 100%. Hospitals, hospice, all kinds of volunteering. And then there was a time where people were like, what are Akashic Records? I've never heard, you know? And I remember there seemed to be this time where, again, it started to come into the spotlight. More people started talking about it, more awareness. Light language seems to be having that surge now, where
Yes.
there were smaller circles of people who were aware or connected to it. But now it seems like it's a bigger
Becoming more
conversation.
mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could you tell everyone, if they haven't heard of it or just aren't clear of what it is, could you talk about what it is, and then what was your connection? What was your first experience with it?
Yeah, so light language is the cosmic language of your soul. Every sound or symbol or movement holds paragraphs of information that we truly can't put into human words. And sometimes spirit wants to share something that's a frequency that's to support us. And the way that I understand light language is that it is to support us in getting out of trance, because we are in very many trances. We get into a trance, and the trance can be, your beliefs around money. It could be around how you are meant to navigate this world, or or your body or whatever it is. Like, think
Yeah.
of any area of your life. You could be in a trance with it. Like us watching TV, we get into a trance. So what light language does is it snaps us out of that trance because it pushes past the conscious mind into the subconscious mind, connects with the higher self, and the higher self says, hey, wake up.
Mm.
Like, I understand what this means. I'm going to do what I got to do with this information to help you on a subconscious level get out of these trances. And so for me, the first time I heard light language was with a coach I was working with. And she just started, it was a phone call. It was a phone call. Didn't see her. Never told me she was speaking light language. She just started speaking light language. So I thought she was talking in a foreign language to someone else. And I'm like, what is she doing? Like, that's kind of rude that she's talking to someone else while we're on a call. And so finally she told me it was light language. I was like, huh, that is so strange. Like, so that was my first experience with it. And I wasn't put off by it. I was just very confused because you got to set context for something like
Right.
that. Like I'm just a very analytical person. And so I can play in the spiritual realm. I can get super woo-woo with you. However, I still like to be analytical. I still like to break it down to the practical
Yeah.
and what it actually means, because most people don't understand, right? And I didn't understand. So it's like, okay, you got to set context for it. So for me, my guides started telling me, they're like, you're going to start speaking light language openly and infusing them in the healings and meditations that you offer. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't want to do that. Like, it's weird. Like, it's so weird. And they're like, yes, you're going to do it. It's going to be great. Like, just trust the process. I'm like, I don't want to trust the process. Like, I don't want to do that. That's really strange. And so finally I like gave in and I started practicing. And when I practice again, this is the cool part about waking up, is somewhere along the journey, you've done these things before.
Right.
And so I was like, man, I used to do this as a kid. My sister and I would speak a foreign language to each other that her and I understood, and it was light language.
Wow.
And so I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. Like, it's so weird. It's super weird, but it's so much fun. And so I've been speaking it and teaching it for quite some time, and I love it. And when I started doing it with my clients, they're like, I want more of that. I want more of it, because it adds, it's like the cherry on top. Like, it just adds something special that it's hard to describe unless you've experienced it. And
Yeah.
so that's in the nutshell what light language is. It's similar to speaking in tongues. So if anybody's ever had that experience, it's like that. And not everybody's light language is the same.
Right.
It can be the same, but it can sound different and it can feel different as well.
Yeah. I've been exposed to it, I'd say, a few different times. And some people, it literally sounds like a foreign language, as you say. And then some people, it sounds more just like random sounds. But the thing I found with it is if you try to make sense of it and you get too in your head, you don't get the full expression of it. Whereas if you
Right.
are exposed to it and you allow yourself to just sink more into the resonance, like almost like if you can let yourself feel into the frequency of it, you literally can feel the frequency of the sound of the language, whatever it is, which I found very interesting. I don't speak light language. I've only been around some people who do. Yeah, so it was a very interesting thing to
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, to say the
It's
least.
it's it's fun and it's different, and you just, like anything, you have to use discernment. Is that for you? Is it not for
Right.
you? And not everybody's light language is for you, and you have to really make sure that you understand like what feels good and what doesn't, because it's a frequency that's supporting you. And if you're working on something, and it doesn't matter if it's like super high vibrational and it's of light, if it doesn't match the frequency and where you're going, it's not worth you listening to it or
Yeah.
being with it.
So does it tend to come? So say you were doing an Akashic record reading, right? Does it tend to come in randomly, or do you know beforehand, like I'm probably going to do some light language for this person, or it just in the moment, it just comes where you're not even thinking about it, it just happens.
So, I don't think about what is going to be shared before it's shared. The way that I do it is it's within healing. So
Mm,
it's a blend of English, guided visualization, and then where it's meant to have that infusion of light language, I'll insert it, then there'll be a
yeah,
pause, and then there'll be more. But it just depends. And then the thing about light language is it can come out of the blue. Like I was in a yoga class and like I was like, oh my God, like I'm not about to start channeling light language out loud, but like I'm like, I need to lay down. Like this wants to come out and I don't know
uh,
what I'm working through right this moment, but like I need to lay down and that's not appropriate because I'm not going to just start channeling out loud. That's not my setting. It's not my class. It's not my whatever, but it can come out of the blue,
yeah,
especially if there's something that you're working on or some spirit's trying to get your attention in some way. And for me, like I have very good boundaries when it comes to channeling and it comes to certain things, but there are things that do come out of the blue where I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from?
yeah.
Yeah.
This is random, but it's coming to ask you this, and I hadn't thought of it in a while. But have you ever had the experience of doing some sort of energy work, whether you're facilitating or just, I don't know, on the receiving end, anything, and not necessarily um, vocal transmission comes through, but have you ever had where it's almost like your hands are doing mudras or just like this
Yeah, that's
involuntary
light language.
movement? Okay.
Yeah,
Because
that's
I've
light
had
language.
that with my hands.
So that's signing light language. So
Ah,
there's different forms of light language. There's spoken. So
mhm.
spoken can sound like a foreign language or just sounds or toning.
Yeah,
It can be movement where someone's moving their whole body, moving their hands. And then it could be where it's just like a signing of like different hand symbols, mudras, things
right.
like that. And
Interesting.
then drawing as well.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, because yeah, I don't know. Well, obviously that's why I popped in to ask you that. I'm like, why did that
Yeah, it's not
happen?
all
What
just
was that about?
spoken.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely not all spoken. And there's so many ways that it comes then. And like one of my favorite things to do is I'll see when someone is channeling light language. I can see it like far across the room.
yeah.
Like, and I went to a shamanic breath workshop a month in July, and we break out into groups, and this girl has light language symbols all over her sheet. And I was like, that's light language. She goes, really? And I was like, yeah. And then I went in August, and again, girl has light language symbols all over her sheet. And she goes, that really is. I was like, yes. Like, because it kind of like the records, they start speaking to people when they're ready. Light language, it it can start bottlenecking in people's body because it's part of our soul's evolution. It's part of our birthright. And for me, it was like I had this big resistance to it because I was like, I don't want to do that. And then I read in some spiritual scripture about how important light language is and how that is how we connect to other light beings and why it's important to utilize it as well because it's an essence that as our human brain tries to calculate it, but our soul recognizes what it is. Like our
Yeah.
soul understands what it is, and the other beings in which we're speaking with or connecting with understand as well. Because there's so many different beings that want to support us, that are of light, that want to support our soul's evolution, support the human race just in general.
Right. Gosh, I wish we had a whole nother hour with you because I'm like, we'll see, now we have to talk about the beings and the guides and the differences because that's another thing people wonder about. Like, is there a difference between like my guides versus beings they may work with or versus,
Yeah.
oh gosh. All right, Amy, this is,
Have to do
I
another
need
show.
more. I know. I'm like, we have to do it again because I need more time to ask you so many things. But I do want to ask you this other question because I know it'll help a lot of people. It sounds like your body of work is not just, of course, it sounds like it's about the evolution of
Mhm.
our soul, our soul's journey, but also this coming to understand ourselves in a higher way. And I think a lot of these systems they can point to this for us, but it's not always so obvious. People don't necessarily know that this is what this is all pointing to, but it sounds like a lot of your work is that. Now, a lot of people come into this wanting to help others, wanting to share all of these things. And because you do talk a lot about manifestation and how we free ourselves from old patterns and habits and all of this, do you have any suggestions for people who want to do some kind of healing to support them in their spiritual work, spiritual business? What do you think about that? Any kind of blocks or?
Are you asking like what type of healing to do
Yeah. Is there
or
something specific that you recommend for people that are having a hard time with actually putting themselves out there, even if there's a desire to share? Is there any healing they
yeah,
can do?
so um one, I have like 20 plus free healings on my website
Oh,
that
wow.
people can go and listen to. So if you
Yeah.
go to theamyrobeson.com/free, and just sign up for our sacred gifts, that has 20 plus free healings. And we have all sorts of stuff. We have like a money healing in there. We have like connecting and grounding. We have like, it's just a collection of different healings and
Yeah.
people get a lot out of that. So mainly it just depends on what you're gravitating towards because sometimes you don't know what you need.
Right.
So it's like just follow the energy of what presents itself to you. And here's the thing, when you work with someone, and it could be in a group setting, it can be a one-on-one, just depends on what you're gravitating towards. When you work with someone, they assist you in folding time. And so for me, like I'm always working with someone. Like
Yeah.
I'm always doing something. I'm doing the work on my own, and then I'm also working in tandem with a coach or a mentor or a healer because I want to fold time and I want to get to where I want to be in each chapter as quickly as I possibly can. And you notice how I'm not saying I want to race to the end because that's not the object.
Mhm.
It's that each chapter, because each chapter holds a special meaning in the journey, and each chapter has a different awareness of who you are and who you're meant to be. And each chapter holds many different purposes. And so it's like, how can I be the most on purpose in this chapter of my life?
Yeah.
And what support systems do I require at this moment in time? Because every chapter you're in requires different support systems. And like, so for me right now, like my primary focus is my health. Like I really want my physical body because I know that what I do right now
Mhm.
drastically impacts when I'm older. And I want to do things that prevent dementia, and I want to do things that prevent diabetes, and I want to feel and be physically strong as I possibly can. So I can work on all the emotional components, I can work on all the spiritual components, but if I'm not taking care of my physical body,
Right.
that's not going to help. And so it's finding this balance in all areas of your life. And that's why one of the things that I like talking about inside of our Akashic Record program is working with the bodies, because you're so multidimensional. And when you're working with different aspects of your being and you have a better understanding of how these aspects influence you, because you influence yourself in so many different ways. And sometimes there's one aspect of you is so on board, so excited. And then there's this other aspect of you that's like, I'm not doing that. I'm scared. I'm going to self-sabotage.
Right.
And so there's this balancing act of figuring out who you are and what that looks like in that exact moment in time.
Yeah. That's incredible. I'm so glad with everything that you shared today. I'm sure it has a lot of light bulbs going off for people. And with that, can you share how people can work with you? I know that you have the Akashic Records program, but is this ongoing? Is there open time for
Yeah.
enrollment? How do we work with you?
So we usually have 2 enrollments a year for Sacred Awakening, but if someone's listening to this and like, I really want to join right away, I let people join halfway through the course, and then we have other protocols on like how what that looks like later on. And
Yeah.
so I have many ways that you can work with me. One, we have a light language course, we have Akashic Records, we do DNA activations twice a year. And at any point in time, if something's not open and you're really wanting to get access to it before then, just reach out and we're able to get you access, and we figure out a way for you to get access to when the next live round is there.
Yes.
And then I have a weekly podcast as well that we're actually doing twice a week now. We just started that. We're doing a live show too, which I'm really
Wow.
excited about.
I
So
can say for podcasting, that takes a lot to do it twice a week. Well, I mean,
oh,
that's
girl, you
impressive.
have no idea. I started off twice a week, and then I was like, once I got to for the 1 year marker, I was like, okay, I'm going back down. And then recently, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to pre-record. I want to just do it live
Live.
because I want the community aspect. And so
Yep.
we're gonna do the live experience where it's just on YouTube. So you just find my name, it's Amy Robeson, and that's Robeson. And we're doing it weekly, the live experience, and like sometimes it'll be group readings or audience choice of healing, and I take recommendations on what you guys want to have, or like we're doing like a Friday the 13th goddess moon
Oh, cool.
celebration healing. So I'm like, it just depends. Like, and I think that for me, why I started this was specifically to be in community,
Yeah.
because I know when I found community for the first time, I was like, this is amazing. There are people that actually think like me and believe in the things that I believe in.
Yeah.
And I don't have to feel like I need to hide my beliefs. Like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And so the having that is really fun. So we just started that, and the live show just depends on the week, and we have it on the our schedule. We're starting to just put it as a schedule on our calendar. So if you go to the amyrobeson.com/free, you'll see where to sign up for the free sacred gifts. And then you'll also see where you can sign up for, you'll see when the next live show is and what the link is for that as well.
Perfect. Okay. So for all information about you, including how to work with you, do the classes, we'll put the link in the show description for the amyrobeson.com. And then if you put in /free, you can get access to some of these activations,
Yes.
meditations, and then also know about the upcoming live shows on the podcast. I just want to thank you, not just for the conversation, but really for the work that you're doing. I always think it's so incredible when people dedicate so much of their time in their life to sharing content, teachings, all of these things, because I know personally it's not easy. It does take a
It's
lot.
work.
It's a lot of work on top of, doing our own practice as well and going through
Yeah.
our own shifts as well. Yeah, it's a lot. So thank you for the work that you're doing, but thank you for coming to share all of this with us today, Amy.
Thanks for having me on. This was so much fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we'll definitely have to have you back because there's so much more we didn't touch on. So we have to have you back to talk about the guides and the beings and all of these things. And I would like to dive in more with you about the shadow work too. So hopefully we'll see you very soon.
Awesome. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you, love. Hello. Hello, beautiful alchemist. Thank you for tuning in today. And a very special thank you, of course, to Amy for coming to share her work with us. Don't forget that she has access to free activations available to you. And the link for that is down in the show description. So just go down in the show description, click the link, and get your free activations. I also want to say for all of you that will be attending the Reiki retreat, I am so excited to meet you all in person, to share space with you, to have this week together. And for the rest of you, if you want to spend a year with me through a group mentoring program, be sure to register for the Alchemy Circle. The classes start December 29th of this year, and it is a year-long program. So I look forward to working with more of you and going deeper into our exploration and understanding and application of energetic alchemy. It is going to be a year of powerful transformation. Thank you so much for tuning in to Reiki Radio. I will see you all next time. And remember to always journey in love.